All right, we'll call the meeting of the Berryessa Union School District Board of Trustees to order at 5:31. We have three trustees in person. Two trustees will be joining us during closed session. For closed session, we have conference with the real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8. We have student discipline, student suspension, student expulsion, or student expulsion readmittance, Government Code Section 35146 and 48918. We have conference with negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. And we have public employee discipline dismissal release complaint, Government Code Section 54957. Are there any public comments on closed session items? Seeing none, we will now adjourn to closed session. Thank you. All right, we will now reconvene to open session. All right, Trustee Jimenez, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Yeah. Everybody could please stand and face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Trustee Howe, can you please read the district mission statement?
Of course, Berryessa Union School District provides all students the skills to become lifelong learners and successful 21st century global citizens.
Thank you for that. And Trustee Nguyen, can you please read the norms of the Board of Trustees?
Yes, the Berryessa Union School District Board of Trustees agreed to focus on the best interest of students at all times, be respectful, listen openly, address problems and process, not persons, keep each other informed, maintain confidentiality, work toward the future, learn from the past, equal participation from all members, and to stay on task.
Thank you for that. For the disclosure of action taken in closed session, Dr. Fuentes.
Thank you. There was a motion by Board Member Nguyen for student number 71640-156 and seconded by Board Member Boak to move to expel student 71640-156-50.
Thank you for that, Dr. Fuentes. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight?
I move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The agenda has been adopted. Thank you. Do we have anything under recognition ceremonial, Dr. Fuentes? None at this time. Are there any public comments on the consent calendar agenda items? Seeing none, may I get a motion for approving the consent calendar tonight?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. If there are no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Are there any comments at this time from the public on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we will go to reports and presentation. Dr. Fuentes, the first one is Berryessa Art Festival Committee presentation.
Thank you. As you know, this past year, we've had a very successful Berryessa Art Festival that supports all of our students in our school district. So we do have a presentation for the board to provide an update on the outcomes of that event and to also share details for the upcoming event for this school year. So I'd like to recognize Trustee Jimenez, who on his own time also supported this event and will be sharing with us some more background information on the success.
Thank you. Good evening. So this is what it looks like from here. So well, I guess last year now we had, the person, it's Frank Kinsella, who for years ran the festival, and we really appreciate all his work. He was unable to do it last year. So Councilmember Cohen, if you could join me. He's represents the area of Berryessa on the city council, and he knows that it's I'll let him kind of explain it, and then I'll go over the process of basically putting on the festival and how much we raise for our schools.
Yeah, the Berryessa Art Festival is probably the biggest, most important event in our district every year. It's the oldest and largest art and wine festival in the city of San Jose, and we're very proud to that event as an annual tradition. It was founded back in the 70s by some community members who founded it to support the music program of the Berryessa School District. And they ran it for years, and they had a committee that kept it going. Eventually, they retired from organizing the event, and we have to continue having a committee every year to help organize it. So it was great that Frank stepped up for a few years. Last year, he informed us probably around this time of year that he wasn't going to be able to pull it off that last year. And that's when I said, as a representative of District 4, this is unacceptable. We have to have this is an annual event. We can't just skip certain years. So we had a conversation with Hugo and Angela, where did Angela go? Somewhere. Oh, there she is. She moved. Angela, who's in my office, and others about, can we pull this off if we try to coordinate it and bring that committee back together? So I'm really proud of the work that Hugo and Angela and others did, along with cooperation from some of our other partners. We have Martha Krieger back there from Senator Aisha Wahhab's office, and we had cooperation from Supervisor Otto Lee, Assembly Member Alex Lee, and others who helped sponsor the event. But our volunteers and community stepped up once again, made it a really successful event. And now it's time to begin planning the 2024 Berryessa Art Festival. We also have some great new artwork with the logo of the art festival created by our great Eric Osborne in our office, who's really good with graphics. And so turn it back over to Hugo, but I'm excited to be here tonight just to kind of wrap up last year's festival and begin the planning for this year's festival.
So Councilmember Cohen, gave me and Angela the time, basically, and he made us, creatively open, right? He left it open for us to run the festival as we saw fit. So, first of all, we needed to form a committee. As you can see, there are some. Is Dan here? There he is. So we had a lot of help because we didn't have a lot to go on. So we, try to bring together, and we did bring together a pretty good community. Tim Orozco is there from Alex Lee's office. And then we had, a few district employees who've done it in the past and some community members who've done it in the past. And also we have Tevu from Otto Lee's office, who was very helpful in the planning. So we had a lot of planning to do. So we had to meet weekly. So we had, like Councilmember Cohen said, we started out. Well, first of all, it was a couple months. It took a little while to find and to get the Berryessa Ed Foundation to agree to, take on the funding this year. So after they said, yes, we'll take on the funding, which they hadn't done in many years, we began the process of actually planning the meeting weekly. There were a lot of issues to resolve, in terms of, who the vendors were going to be, that were going to, provide the arts and crafts, who was going to provide the food, who was going to provide the wine glasses was a big issue because the wine glasses are not cheap. And so Susan Fowl actually stepped up and paid for it. So we were really grateful for that. But we had weekly meetings, discuss the logistics of the festival, coordinate volunteers, do the setup. So it was quite a complicated process, but we had, people who've done it for many, many years and who were willing to meet with us weekly and be there on the day of, to make the festival happen. And then, of course, to put on any kind of event, we need money. So we had a lot of people, Councilmember Cohen provided a great deal of the funding for the festival from the District 4 office. Tasty Fresh, they did the promotional materials. We had some funding also from Alex Lee's office, from Otto Lee's office. Valley Water provided some funding, and some local businesses also provided some funding. Aisha Wahhab's office, Senator Aisha Wahhab's office provided some funding. So we're very grateful. Also, Guglielmo and Jay Lore provided the wines at a discount for us to make the festival happen. Rod and Robbie. So we're really grateful to all these businesses and individuals who helped out with the sponsoring. And then so, after all the planning, coordinating, we had some money raised, paid for all the, the porta potties and for the park space and all that stuff. On the day of, we had more than 75 vendors of different kinds, providing local arts and crafts, clothing. I remember this woman sold bows for your hair, woodworking, plants. We had so many vendors. I think we haven't had this many vendors at an art and wine festival or Berryessa Art Festival in a while. So it was great to have all these different vendors, there. And then the what do they call the pinwheels? Yeah. And then we had various food trucks. And actually, we had one food truck. It was the shaved ice. It's Kona Ice, and they sold, their shaved ice at the festival and provided some of their proceeds back for the Ed Foundation. We also had 13 offices of elected officials and service providers there, just so people can, get some information on, what we do as, in elected offices, what some services that are available are in the community. And of course, we had lots of volunteers to make that event happened that day. More than 3,000 attendees, people from the neighborhood and from throughout the South Bay really, attended the event. And so in conclusion, we got more than $14,000 raised for Berryessa Union School District programs, which is the ultimate goal, of the festival. So it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun and planning, and I'm really grateful to everybody that volunteered and everybody that was voluntold to help out. And we're doing it again this year. So it's planned for Saturday, May 11th, again at Penitentiary Creek Park. It's going to be the 47th annual Berryessa Art Festival. So if anybody wants to contribute, either by volunteering their time, being part of the committee, it'd be great to have another board member as part of the committee, or if you want to make a monetary donation, we're always taking those, and money's always very helpful. And so we want to officially present the.
I will say that I have always wanted to come somewhere with a giant cardboard check. So I now have my opportunity, but the festival isn't complete without the official presentation, although the Ed Foundation has had the money all along because that's where the money was immediately deposited. But we want to make it official that we've raised this money for the Berryessa Ed Foundation, which will be used as the district and Ed Foundation see fit for all of the schools of the Berryessa School District. So I guess we can present this to the president, or to the board, and to superintendent, or whoever you think is appropriate. We have our $14,000 check from the Berryessa Art Festival for the.
So one more thing. So in addition to the giant check, I also have in our office, we have a giant banner that there was this group of artists that went to the festival, and they had people, the attendees kind of add their touch with paint and stuff like that. So I don't know how big that's, like 20 feet. Yeah. So I'll bring it to the next meeting, but it's quite a piece of artwork.
Nice art.
Yeah.
Group, what were they called?
Local color. Yeah.
So people came and visitors just drew on it,
Yeah.
and it's a really beautiful piece.
Yeah. And it doesn't fit in my cubicle, so I'll bring it here.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for being here, Councilmember Cohen, and thank you for the check, and thank you, Trustee Jimenez, for all the hard work. I do have one complaint. There's no pictures of me cleaning up. Me, Dan, Angela, and Marla. Remember how much we cleaned up? we did a lot of work after the fact, so that's also important.
They'll have it next year.
I'll make sure there are photographers around when we do that. So. But no, seriously, it is a big shot in the arm for us, for our school district, for the Ed Foundation, to have that money available for our teachers for their grants, for helping their classrooms. So it's no joke. It's a good amount of money. It's I know the amount of hard work that went into doing this. I was there at the initial meetings. Unfortunately, I could not continue due to family reasons, but I know the challenges with the vendors and all those things. So I'm with you. So we really, really appreciate all the hard work and all the support from the council members' office, and as well as our sponsors. So thank you so much for doing that.
And I know that representatives of the Berryessa Ed Foundation couldn't be here after all, but I do want to extend on behalf of them, their thanks and appreciation, because as we've come out of the pandemic, these types of events and community support has taken some time to kind of get right back into place, including for the Ed Foundation and their own resources to be able to continue to support teacher grants and special school projects that our teachers like to do for our students. And so this $14,000 will be a great boost for them to be able to continue those offerings. So thank you so much for everyone that was involved in coordinating, taking on the leadership, and ensuring that we continue to have these resources available.
Perfect. Any other comments from the trustees? Okay, perfect. All right. We'll move on to item B, LCAP mid-year update and budget overview.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. McCreary, our Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services, to share with the board where we are on our goals in our LCAP and our financials, and how we're working towards meeting the outcomes that we established for this year.
All right, here we go. So here's our agenda for the presentation. We're going to take some time to review our LCAP goals. There are metrics for each goals. A lot of the metrics that we're using here were also in the data dashboard presentation that we presented at our January board meeting. And then reviewing how our actions and services are going for each of the goal. Josh Quitoriano helped with the budget expenditures for each goal. And then, of course, where we're at with stakeholder engagement and timeline for the new LCAP cycle, which will be happening pretty much right after the February break is when we do a lot of that outreach and start planning for the next cycle. So as a reminder, LCAP Goal 1, ensuring a safe and productive learning environment that promotes wellness and a positive school culture for all students. Some of the metrics that we used specifically, we're looking at 2022, 2023 data, and that's kind of like our baseline. And where we're at this point, I think we looked at January 31st as the mid-year update. And then where would we like to be is the goal for the end of the school year at the 23-24 school year. And that's actually what we sought out for 3 years ago. So the desired outcomes were actually at the beginning of this 3-year cycle, and how close we are to hitting those outcomes. So as you can see, some of the metrics that we use specifically to support goal number 1, attendance rates. So at the end of last year, we were at 24.71%. And right now, we're pretty much right at the same at 24.7%. So we're definitely continuing to monitor those. I know we're going to bring this up tomorrow at our leadership meeting with the principals and other leaders, but we are hoping to get to 98%. So we do still have some work to do on attendance rates. Chronic absenteeism was a big focus for this current school year. Last year, we had a 16% chronic absenteeism rates, and we were looking at specific student groups. Our Hispanic student groups were at 34.6%, and our African American student groups were at 29%. So at the mid-year point, like I mentioned, January 31st, we are at 13.7%, which is a decrease in chronic absenteeism, which is a good thing. Our Hispanic student groups are at 27%, and then African American students are at 17%. We had a very lofty goal of trying to come out of the pandemic with chronic absenteeism rates at 4%. So at this point, we're just happy that that chronic absenteeism rate is decreasing. I don't see us hitting that 4% rate. And we'll look at, once again, setting those 3-year goals for this upcoming cycle to be a little bit more in the realm of what we could potentially hit. Suspension rates, once again, for last school year, we're at 1.6%. And then we're looking at our student subgroups that potentially have a little higher increase. So our Hispanic students at 3.5%, our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch at 3.5%, our English learners at 1%, and our African American students at 10%. So definitely looking specifically at those student groups, because the student groups should be pretty much in alignment with our overall suspension rate. And as you can see, we still have work to do with some of our student groups. And currently at 0.82% suspension rates, Hispanic rates are decreasing. Our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch are decreasing, EL is decreasing, and African American students haven't really decreased much compared to last year. One student for the expulsion rate, one student tonight for expulsion rate, and our desired outcomes are pretty close to the mark. Once again, it's our student group for our African American students that we're continuing to monitor and support as we look at our metrics. So to get a little bit more into detail, we're looking at the number of students in each subgroup. That helps really identify the N, and then the number of students that have been suspended within those student groups. I think that also helps us understand specifically for our African American students groups. There's very few as a collective, but 19 of the 81 students were suspended in 22-23 year. We have it down to 5 students, but some of those students have been suspended more than once. So those are some of the numbers that we look at. You know, once again, 85 students for Hispanic students, a big decrease to get to 29 students as of January 31st. Wrong way. And then just how are we doing with our actions and services and our budget? So we're continuing to work specifically with our MTSS, which are our multi-tiered systems of support. We actually have a district executive leadership team tomorrow. We're working with the Collective Impact Solution group. We're doing a lot of training. We had a PowerPoint presentation that was rolled out in January to all schools so that everybody understands what our focus area is. We're continuing to work with our students who need that social emotional well-being and students supports. We are happy to report that we did qualify for a grant. So we were able to identify and hire an additional school social worker who just started at the beginning of January. She's housed out at the Piedmont Middle School. So she's also supporting Piedmont, but also supporting all schools, linking the services that are provided within the districts, within the county, so that some of our students get more support. Panorama survey is coming out. That's also part of our LCAP, just to see how our students are feeling about their social emotional well-being. We're going to continue with the student survey for Panorama, and we're going to be continuing to outreach to parents and staff through the Survey Monkey. And we're working towards getting more of our schools up with positive behavior intervention supports, PBIS for short. We have 3 schools that are going through the Santa Clara County Office of Ed and getting training. We also have 4 schools that are getting like a little reboots, a little restarts, and they're working with the Collective Impact Solution folks. And we continue to have web at all 3 of our middle schools. And at this point in the year, I think Josh also was around the end of June or the end of January, we're at 46% of our expenditures for what we have captured for goal number 1. I keep going the wrong way. All right, we're going to keep moving forward. Goal 2, improving student achievement for all students, providing that common core state standards instruction with the strategic use of technology, and also providing professional development for all staff. We look basically at our metrics, our test scores, specifically our SBAC scores, and we'll just kind of go through those pretty quickly. What we're looking at for the baseline is the 2021-2022 SBAC scores that were administered in the spring of 2022. For the mid-year update, we're looking at the 2023 SBAC scores that were administered in the spring of 2023. So once again, you can see that we are at 34.6 points above standard. From last school year, we dipped a couple of points, but we're still above standard. And then once again, looking at our specific population of student groups, our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, 11.3 points below standard. And so actually we decreased. So now it's 17.7 points below standard. Our African-American students were at 52.9 points below standard, and that actually increased, but they're still below by 37 points. Hispanic students were at 31 points below standard, and that also increased or decreased the number of students to 41.3 points. So our goal is to continue to increase 3 points across the district and also within student populations. So we've made a little bit of progress within some of those student subgroups, but once again, really focusing in on how to support those student groups. For math, overall, last school year, we're at 6.7 points above standard. This school year, we're at 11.1 point above standard. So we're making progress there. Students who qualify for free and reduced lunch were 49.6 points below. And this past school year, we're at 11.3 points below. So making some good progress. African-American students were 112 points below. Now we're at 52.9 points below. So that's almost increasing by 50 points. Great. And our Hispanic students were below at 81.6 and at 52.9 points. So you can see for math, we're making some steady increases, which is great. And I think that also back to, in-person learning, filling in those gaps. So our math scores are trending in the positive direction. And then looking at our LPAC scores for our students who are English learners and making, once again, 50.9% of our students are making progress towards English proficiency. And this school year, 54.3 making progress. And this is once again the 2022-2023 scores. Right now, our assessment team is out actually giving the LPAC scores for this current school year. So that data probably will be input for next school year. And then once again, the number of students who are reclassified, last year were 304. This year it's 115. And a very lofty goal. I think, once again, these are goals that we need to reconsider for the next iteration. And I think what we were trying to capture was the 3 years added together to get to 500. So that is the LPAC scores. And I keep going backwards. Reading benchmarks, same information at the elementary level, the middle school level. Benchmarks are given a couple of times during the school year. So these are at the midpoint, once again, at the end of January. So you'll be able to see the baseline and then compare it to where we're at mid-year, where we'd like to be at the end of 2022 or the 23-24 school year. So we are making some progress by closing the gap on below grade level. Approaching grade level decreased a little. Meeting grade level increased a little, and exceeding grade level was almost half of our students, which is really positive. And so we are hitting our desired outcomes specifically for the exceeding piece, but we still have some work to do with the below grade level and approaching grade level. Same thing for math. We have those middle school, not math, but the reading benchmarks for the middle school, also given 3 times a year. Our percents are trending a little lower with our middle school results. So you can see that the decrease in the increase in the below grade level, and then also the increase in approaching grade level. And so that's continuing to work specifically to help support our middle school students. And going back again. Okay, it's the up button, not the down button, Joe. All right, so actions and services and our budget update. So once again, providing those basic instructional services to all students. We had a great conversation with our dear friend, Dr. Nikki Elliott, who was on site yesterday and giving us a lot of great feedback on her strategy keepers. We also have another training scheduled for next week. So when we're on break, we have about 30 of our classified and certificated employees who are going to get level 2 training from Dr. Nikki and her team. And once again, our strategy keepers that have been at the forefront of supporting Dr. Nikki and her work. And those are our employees. Will also be helping co-facilitate some of those sessions. We continue to support our Tier 2 and Tier 3 ELA and English Language Arts intervention with our Imagine Learning platform. We have a lot of extended support after school to help fill in those gaps. Our instructional coaches are also working with students at each of the school sites. We just hired reading tutors specifically to help with those Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports for English Language Arts. We continue to provide SEAL training to help support our English language development and those students who qualify for EL. This is our first year that we've had all 3 of our middle schools provide 0 periods so that our EL students do receive an elective. Math for Tier 2 and 3, just being very honest, that's more support that we need to help support teachers with supports in math or programs to help support in math. We're continuing to work through our FOSS units, and we continue to work on our AVID schools, our 3 middle schools and 3 elementary schools, and that support. And we're continuing to work through EduClimber, which is part of the Illuminate assessment platform, and getting more into how to support and understand all the different features to track some of these assessments. And like I mentioned as well, goal 2, we're in pretty good shape for expending those funds at 52%. Down. I still went the wrong way. All right, goal 3, increase the parent and community involvement and education. And once again, looking at our metrics, talked a little bit already about the Panorama survey. We continue to have DLAC meetings, which are District English Language Advisory Committees. And this year they're continuing with Zoom. That was one thing that we had a discussion at the beginning of the year. Parents really liked the option of Zoom, especially for DLAC meetings, which are during the day, around 8:30 to 10. We have a handful of parent education nights that are happening. Right now, we're wrapping up our middle school supports, and then in March, we're having parent ed nights at the elementary sites. So it's going to actually be housed at Ruskin. So we've had some really good parent nights sponsored by the district. We also have multiple parent nights and other opportunities that happen at the school sites, and making sure that we're sending out those parent newsletters twice a month. And once again, goal number 3 doesn't have as much budget attached to it, but we are at about 47%. And we're continuing those parent communication outreach using our translators, and Communicate is a contract that we support for other translators that are in addition to the services that our 3 translators provide. And once again, that parent engagement and getting the county office to help support with some of these initiatives. So where we're at is, once again, we're wrapping up year 3. What I just presented will all go into year 3 of the LCAP, and it's part of the new template. There's always a new updated template, and that's the annual update template that we'll be using. And as we close out that 3-year cycle, we're also opening up the next 3-year cycle. And so what we usually do between March and May is we make presentations to our parent community groups, which is our Berryessa District Advisory Committee, our District English Language Acquisition Committee. We go to principal meetings. We have our own LCAP meetings. We invite our union folks. We have principals on those committees. We have parents on those committees. So I'll be sending information out probably right after the break, set those all up. The superintendent and I really enjoy going out to the school sites to hear from the students. They tell us a lot of fun information, and we enjoy that, and gathering that information to also help support, what goes into the LCAP. And then, like I mentioned before, we have our panorama survey. So getting the students to also from 3rd to 8th grade, giving them, I think it's about 40 to 50 questions about how they're feeling, social, emotional well-being, et cetera. And then this will be our 2nd year sending out the survey for the LCAP through SurveyMonkey. And we'll continue to refine those questions and get feedback so that we continue to put all those things into our upcoming cycle. All right. Questions?
Any questions, comments on the board?
I have a couple of questions and comments. Thank you for the presentation. Always happy to hear updates from LCAP, especially since all these goals are so important. And I'm always happy to hear that we're still working with Dr. Nikki and getting the strategy keepers out there, making sure that they're going into the schools and making sure everything stays up to date with them.
Yeah.
I had just had a couple of questions. I noticed that AVID, we just have it at 3 elementary schools. Was wondering why it's only 3 and not, are we looking to expand more? Just curious. Or are they funded by Title I funds?
AVID is really, the big focus has been middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's competing initiatives. And so what we were really looking forward to do is trying to get some of the 4th and 5th grade folks into the AVID program and getting them trained up. And then they would have to go to some of the trainings throughout the state. And the interest of getting those additional trainings outside of the calendar year is a little difficult because it usually is at the end of June, early July. And so we're really trying to get the 3 elementary schools kind of more pumped up before we add more.
Gotcha.
And honestly, it used to be 4 elementary schools and it's gone down to 3 because they also felt that the support and the progress wasn't as robust at the elementary schools as it is at the middle schools.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I also just wanted to ask, I noticed that we have a parent newsletter. Is that available in different languages? I noticed that we do have translators, but are the newsletters translated in Vietnamese, Spanish?
So there's usually just a little piece down at the bottom that says if you need translation.
Okay.
However, when we send things out via NTI, important documents that need to be filled out, those are translated.
Okay, great. Hey, thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? So from my side, I just had a question about the on the metrics that you presented, where it says the desired outcomes. So if I heard you correctly, that's at the end of the end of the 3-year cycle, not just for the year, correct?
Correct. So we planned those out when we created the 3-year plan at the beginning of the cycle. And we were just being very lofty in our outcomes. Now it helps us really redefine where we're at and making them a little more attainable for the next cycle.
Also knowing that year 1 was 21-22. Correct. So that was our
Right.
first year back in from, everything with the pandemic.
But otherwise, the numbers look quite good. I know there's always work to do. There's
Absolutely.
as a school district, we constantly are. It's a moving target, but some of the numbers, metrics look very good. So thanks for all the hard work there.
Another piece that I think we really need to continue to monitor are the student groups, right?
Okay.
So those, big picture on paper, everything looks pretty good. But when you start really digging into those student subgroups, that's where the work is to be done, in my opinion, because you can definitely see there's a disparity between the overall and then looking at the student groups.
correct.
And that's basically MTSS,
Yeah.
the multi-tiered systems of support to really support those students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. That's those extra dollars that we get to support those programs. So
Perfect. Thank you
Alright.
for the presentation. All
Okay.
right.
going all the way to the end now, going the wrong way. Okay. Tony?
All right. We'll move forward with the Measure L and Measure U construction bond program update.
Thank you. And we invite Tony Conestab for his monthly report.
Tony, can you?
There we go. Again, the gym, they started using it on the 17th. They've been using it almost every day, especially now that it's raining. They've been using it more and more. Let's see if I can do this. Ooh. I learned from Joe. Again, we'll go through Measure L and Measure U. Measure L will be real brief because, again, we have some funds left. We're going to present what we have left in the April board meeting so that we can approve and then hopefully spend them by the end of the fiscal year. Measure U, again, the projects we have completed. We completed the middle school gym, basically the gym itself. We still have some site work and some other things to do around it, but the gym itself is complete. Also, the Morel exterior door replacement project, that's complete, and the exterior door numbers at Piedmont has been completed. We did bid one project since the last board meeting, well, since my last update, was the Toyon restroom project. That was actually awarded on the 31st of January. Again, we had 6 bidders, and actually we started the 5th of February. Projects that are in progress, again, at Piedmont, we have, at the gym, we still have to do some landscaping, and basically we have to replace some electrical. We're just waiting for the switchboard to arrive. We ordered it 6 months ago. We think it'll be here in another 6 months. Once that's here, we'll actually do it. And it's basically replacing the old one that was there, and it basically just powers up the portables. Exterior door numbers, they've been working on some of the door numbers at all the schools. We had to be selective because of the cold weather. They can't actually put the numbers up. We've been putting up more plates than numbers. The PA project, that actually started about a month and a half ago. They've been working on that. We're going to actually start probably putting in the PA system in another month at Piedmont or so. The security alarm project, that actually started at Piedmont yesterday, and they expect to complete that in a couple weeks, and then they'll move on to Morel. And again, for the security, the existing system is still up and running. As soon as the new one's put in, then we'll take down the old one. Again, the restroom project at Toyon, that started the 5th. They're moving along. That's actually doing pretty well. Most of the demolition has been completed so far. There's been a lot of noise, but the teachers have been really pretty good troopers. I mean, we actually asked the teacher that's adjacent to it if she wanted to move, and she's didn't want to, and she stayed put, and hasn't complained. So it's been actually pretty good. Our biggest concern now is next week it's supposed to rain. And a lot of the heavy demolition we were going to do next week, that might have to do on Saturdays and things like that, just because of the rain. Again, the fire alarm replacement for Brooktree, Majestic, and Summerdale. Majestic is pretty much complete. Brooktree will be complete probably at the end of, I got to get this right, President's Weekend break. And then Summerdale should be done in April. The only thing, the first 2 we haven't turned them on yet is because we're still waiting for certain parts so that we can actually test everything and turn it over to the school. But they should be done by the end of the summer. Projects we have in design are the next set of fire alarm projects at Toyon, Vincy Park, and Northwood. Again, we're working on the warehouse replacement project. Exterior signs we're working on. Again, the rest of the schools for the PA and security, Brooktree, Majestic Way, Noble, Northwood, Summerdale, Toyon, and Vincy Park. We're working on design right now, and we hope to bid those by the end of all of those by the end of summer. The exterior windows at Piedmont, that's actually at DSA. And that went in about 2 weeks ago, so that'll take about 3 months to finish. Hopefully, they can do it faster because it's just windows. But we'll bid those probably at the end of April. We're actually going to bid everything. We might not award everything until it actually gets approved by DSA, though. Again, the idea is try to get almost all the windows done this summer. And then the last one is the comprehensive infrastructure renewal and utilities assessment. It was. They actually started that. In fact, they walked, was it last week? 2 weeks ago, Dan? So they walked all the schools already. They're going to have recommendations on kind of things they can do for the mechanical systems, solar, water, just a variety of things. And again, those are all things that they have to do, be able to show that they can save money so that we can do those. And again, I threw in a picture of, on the right are the two storage rooms that are going to turn into bathrooms, are going to turn into the restrooms. And on a site plan, you can see the colored ones are actually where they are. So, and wing C and J, which I'm not sure why it's J and L, that's basically all TK and kinder lower grades. So those are the kids that are going to use those restrooms. And then that's the inside of the finished gym, which most of you have seen. And then it's just this is just a schedule of how we're going to complete everything. Questions?
How's the construction market? Any chance that the other bids that are going to be coming up are going to be under the budget?
Well, we know the PA will, because that we can actually do through CMAS. So we already know kind of where those numbers are. And that's just a matter of how many we're going to buy kind of thing. So we know we're going to save some money there. The rest of the things, it's just, I mean, again, the Toyon project, we were lucky. We had 6 bidders. So that's
Right.
great. So at least it's competitive.
Yeah.
It's just going to, it's still hit or miss. It's better, but there are still some materials that are taking forever to get, like still mechanical units are taking 6 to 12 months to get, longer than they should. Switchboards for electrical, those are taking a year to get. So some things like that are just taking too long. So again, some of the things we're looking at is trying to pre-purchase things so that we don't have to wait so long to do some of that stuff. So it's better, but it's still not great.
Right. Okay.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Oh yeah, thank you for the presentation. Always happy to hear which projects you're working on. I had a quick question about the comprehensive infrastructure renewal and utility assessment. You mentioned they're going to be looking at our solar and our water usage. Will they be looking at like renewable or how we can better utilize our solar panels? Like, for example, kind of like leveraging our existing infrastructure for electricity and such? Would that kind of be part of the report?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm really interested to see how we can better utilize our solar panels and also see like how we can use more renewable energy, bring down the cost. So yeah.
Because initially when we did the solar panels, we only did about 80% of capacity. So one of the things they're going to look at is, and I think we're allowed to go to about 110% of what we can produce. So they're going to look at how we can do that and if that actually makes sense.
Okay, great.
Because again, everything's changed on how we get rebates back, or just because NEM 1 is how they charge. That's what we're in right now, but now they're in NEM 3, so the rates are a lot different and payback's a lot harder to make money on.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
but anyhow, we are actually looking at that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anything else? From my side, I have a question.
Sure.
For the remaining Measure L funds, do you already have a list of items prioritized?
Well, we have a couple. I think we still have about 300,000 left, but about 150 or so is unencumbered. So those are the things we're trying to look at what we want to do. So a lot of the things we're going to look at is we still want to purchase some more cafeteria tables for for Toyon and Noble. We never purchased cafeteria tables. Ruskin needs a few more outdoor cafeteria tables. There was some shelving at the sister schools. We put them at Brooktree and Majestic, and at the time Summerdale didn't want them, but now that they have less classrooms, they need more storage space, so we're going to add some more shelving. So there's things like that we're going to try to do. We still have the loan for the renewable energy for the lighting systems that we did. We can use some of that savings to pay that off.
Okay.
So things like that we're looking at.
The reason I asked is I noticed something at Cherrywood. I'm there in the mornings for my crossing guard duty. When I walked through the parking lot, I noticed something unusual. If you can picture the Cherrywood parking lot as just a single aisle, the one side faces the road to the grassy area. The other side faces the school near the fence. And that side doesn't have those concrete stoppers, where the safety stoppers.
Oh, the little parking barriers.
The parking barriers, right? So could be an issue if someone hits a gas pedal instead of the brake. They're just going to go through the fence. So I was wondering any reason why that was not put in, and are there other sites like that potentially that could be a hazard?
Typically, you put those parking barriers when there isn't a curb. Okay, so if there's
There's not a curb, I see. Okay.
So typically, if there's a curb, you don't put them in. If there isn't a curb, that's when you put them in.
But in this specific case, there are students walking past
Right.
that fence. So if a car does lose control, they're going to hit the curb and hit the student potentially.
I mean, we can look at putting those in because honestly, they're not that much money to do.
Right. So that's why I was curious whether
So
we
can add that to the list of potential projects if the board, we can do that.
Okay. If we can evaluate other sites, I only know
Correct. No,
but to see
I understand.
if
Gotcha.
there is
Okay.
sites.
Because I'm sure there's a few sites probably like that, but I'll look at all of them and we can put some numbers together.
Okay. That'll be great. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, otherwise.
You're welcome.
All righty. All right. Moving along. Item 11, Superintendent's Report, Dr. Fuentes.
Thank you. First, what I'd like to do is just express my thanks to Dan and to Marla and the entire MOT team. We've had a stormy month, and I just kind of want to share some context on what we do when storms happen and we're preparing for that kind of weather. Especially the last storm. I know we're getting ready to enter again into another one, hopefully not as strong as the last, but there's constant visit and checking on our monitoring systems for power, for rain damage, all of those things. And so with the last storm, I was in communication with Dan on Sunday. He had his teams out, checking the sites. Monday morning, Marla was on site very early, pre-dawn, to make sure all school sites had power and that everything was ready to go. So there's a lot that happens behind the scenes to make sure that our schools are ready for staff and students for the next day. So, and a lot of that happens after hours or on the weekends, depending on when that storm is planning to come. So I just want to thank our team. And even as the storms and rains occur, I know our grounds team, our maintenance team, they're spread out at all of the sites, helping to address any potential issues, to keep people safe, with all of the excess water we can have. And also to monitor that the fixes that have been put into place with our Braun project are working. And I was over at Piedmont, and I know I was talking with the custodian there, and he was like, "Oh, in the past we used to have like a lake here, but the new drainage system worked perfectly." And and that did not occur. So so it's really good to see those things be effective. And so I just wanted to share my gratitude to the team, and knowing their work's not done with this next storm coming. So we'll continue to monitor and do those updates, because we know that a lot of other of our neighboring districts were impacted with school closure due to lack of power and all of those types of things. And so just wanted to share with our community all the work we do in the back end to ensure we can open school and be ready to make those announcements if we need to make other changes. And so, yeah, Dan's in the room, so we can say thank you to him for that scouting work that he does. And then also, we talked a lot about in our LCAP presentation about the MTSS work, about continuing our work with Dr. Nikki. It is nice to see the bright spots where that work is making a difference, for our students and for our staff. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend the AAPI network event for countywide administrators. The topic on their agenda was mental health and wellness, and our Cherrywood team were the panelists. And it was great to see, our principal Choi, as well as the site social worker, a classroom teacher, a parent, and a student all talk about how mindfulness strategies were making a difference for them personally, as well as, in their school setting and with the climate. And so we had a few parents there in the audience that were very interested in learning more about that work and how it could be applied. I really loved hearing our parent who was on the panel. They have been practicing the strategies at the principal coffees, introducing the parents to that work there. And, our parent had really taken that work and really reflected on, how she approaches her own children with different areas that our kids can be stressed about, whether it's homework or things happening with friends or disagreements with their parents, and how to give some coping strategies and giving their students a space to have a voice in their home, as well as at school. Our student was actually our demonstrator, along with our social worker, with everybody in the group, to show us some breathing exercises that they've learned to do. And our student shared the different scenarios in the classroom that he sometimes takes those strategies and puts them into use. And so it was just spot on, really proud moment. I saw Dr. Nikki yesterday and shared with her. I said, "Oh, you would have been so proud." I said, because, even our social worker did a lot with the group in talking about the science behind that work and the physiology piece connected, when we're going through those exercises. So it was well done. So it's nice to see through the training, we have individuals within our own community that have not only taken on that strategy, but are ready to be in position to support others in acquiring that learning and understanding more on the best uses of those practices. And I know we've got folks in the room here who've been part of that training and as well. And so, really hopeful on where we can see our strategy keepers go in the next level with this work. And then, of course, with MTSS, as we've talked about in the past, that one key strategy around that is really communication and getting to a level of understanding across our district of what that is about, how we're prioritizing that work, and where does it fit in everything else. And so we're still working on that. Our DELT team, I know we've got a member in our audience here that's part of that. We're talking through those issues, talking through those challenges. How can we support all of our staff in understanding what this is about, identifying the resources that go along with those supports for them and for students, and just making a stronger system around all of that work. That does take time. We're in it, we're committed to making this a positive outcome for everyone, and hopefully see continued improved results on our data that we've been looking at as a result of it. And really, I think with any initiative like MTSS work and other things, the basis for all of that is the success of it will be the relationships that we have with one another and that we have with our students and with our families. And that's what we keep coming back to, is the importance of those critical relationships, those conversations, so that the more we learn about our students' needs, our family needs, we can better identify what those right supports are to help our staff, implement that and move forward so that we can see our students being more successful. So, I want to thank everyone because there was a large team that was involved in being part of this launch and giving feedback on how we could. It's always a challenge, to have a unified message go across, and we're getting feedback on how our delivery was, and we're going to continue to work on that to make that better and to make sure it's more comprehensible and clear. And, I think our staff is asking that from us too. And our parents need to understand more like what that's about. And so that'll be the continued work. But I'm very excited about where we are and what our commitment is towards that.
Thank you for that, Dr. Fuentes. Are there any comments or announcements from the board? Okay, none at this time. The next item on the agenda with content is a review and action. Dr. Fuentes, item A is yours.
It is recommended the board review and approve board policy 0460, local control and accountability plan for a first reading. As you heard, there's yet another iteration of this plan. So what this policy does is it updates all of the language and terms that the state school board has approved for this next iteration.
Thank you for that. Is there a motion to review and approve board policy 0460?
I move for approval.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. There are no questions. All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Item 2, Dr. Fuentes.
It is recommended the board review and approve board policy 0500, accountability for first reading. With this, this is also coming from the state. The state had submitted a waiver request to the U.S. Department of Ed in terms of our accountability structure. It was declined by the U.S. Department of Ed. So the state now is going back to revisit that language and put it in compliance with what U.S. Department of Ed expects. And that's where the language changes are occurring here.
Perfect. Are there are no questions on this? Can I get a motion to approve?
Yeah, move to approve the board policy 0500.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 3, board policy 0520, Dr. Fuentes.
It is recommended the board review and approve board policy 0520, intervention in underperforming schools for a first reading. So again, going back to our State Board of Education in revisiting the LCAP template, there was also lengthy discussion regarding accountability and school performance. And so they have also made adjustments in the guidance on when schools have subgroups of students that are underperforming, when will technical assistance be provided at the state level, at the county level, and so this is updating that language.
Perfect. Are there any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
move for approval.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item B under review and action under human resources. We have 3 resolutions. Dr. Fuentes.
Yes, thank you so much. Before we get to the resolutions, I just want to share with the board and with our community. We're brought to these resolutions based on our budget finances that we've been monitoring for the past 2 years. As you know, we've had our budget stabilization committee reviewing our areas of need, which have predominantly come from our structural deficit spending, as well as the impact we have faced with declining student enrollment. And so as a result of that, we know that we need to ensure that we continue to use our resources appropriately to sustain our fiscal solvency. We have had lots of engagement with the County Office of Education as they have been reviewing and monitoring our budget, reviewing our next steps that were recommended by our Budget Stabilization Committee, and now looking at us implementing those actions, and that's where we are. Having said that, I also want to express that we understand, the impact that this has for our students, for our schools, and our staff, and we are committed to ensuring there's minimal impact possible with these decisions that need to be made. There's kind of a twofold in terms of where we are. There are state regulations that we have to meet specific timelines, and that's what brings these actions forward at this time. But there's a lot of other developments that will happen from now to the end of the year. We have a preliminary governor's budget, which currently right now is not favorable for us. That is still in discussion at the legislature and will evolve. There will be a May revise, and we'll learn more about our position at that time. In addition, when we look at making sure we have appropriate staffing at all of our schools, we base that on our enrollment projections. Those are fluid numbers. In addition to that, we also base it on transitions of our staff, which also is very fluid and will continue to adjust throughout this rest of the year. So one of the things that we have done that I want to remind our employees that's out there for them is we have offered an employee early tell incentive. So it's $1,000 to letting us know as soon as possible if they're going to be making a transition outside of the district. If that's because of a retirement, moving, we have staff that move out of the area, taking on other, jobs outside the district. The more information we can have in that arena, that will help reduce this impact that we currently are facing. So want to encourage everyone that still continues to be an opportunity. There seemed to be some confusion of that funding being equivalent to a golden handshake or a retirement plan. That's not the intention of that. This is an early notification bonus that we're trying to provide so we can get information about mobility of our staff sooner rather than later as we work through this process. So I just wanted to say that as a general statement, and I have more to share as I go through each resolution.
By when do they have to notify to get the $1,000 incentive to, just to notify?
Currently, the deadline is this week because we do have a March 15th deadline for notification. We're open to discussion with our labor partners if that needs to be extended in order for us to acquire more. But the first notice for these individuals that may be impacted has to be done by March 15th.
So again, it's just to people that are already planning on retiring or maybe finding a job elsewhere.
Or they're moving.
Or moving. It's just if they already know that, they can notify us, they get $1,000
Correct.
extra.
As new information comes in, we'll be notifying these affected and impacted employees as soon as possible that their job's no longer at risk of.
Absolutely.
of
So, like I said, there's a lot of mobility that's happening because there's a lot of variables that will help reduce these numbers down. And so, our first round of notification has to be done by March 15th. But as we are getting information, even this week, we've been getting information from staff regarding different situations that will alleviate some of those numbers. We're taking that into account so that any notifications that we have to give are the absolute minimum number that we have to do. If there's enough, notification before that March 15th, it could be zero, but we don't have that information at this time. So we're encouraging everyone to let us know. Even post March 15th, let's say an individual does receive a notice, we know that there's still potential change to occur after March 15th. If anyone received a notice and now we get more information, those notices can be rescinded.
All right, let's go through the resolutions one at a time. So first one is resolution 23-06, to eliminate or reduce the number of certificated employees. Dr. Fuentes?
Thank you. It is recommended that the board adopt Resolution 2306, resolution to eliminate or reduce the number of certificated employees. Currently, that resolution states 13 full-time employees. And as we said, that number will continue to reduce as we get information about people's plans of what they intend for next year.
If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, Ms. Gomez? Aye.
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 Thank you. Resolution 2306 has been adopted unanimously. Next one is Resolution 23-07 to decrease the number of classified employees due to lack of work and lack of funds. Dr. Fuentes.
It is recommended that the board adopt Resolution 2307, resolution to decrease the number of classified employees due to lack of work and lack of funds. And one thing I would also like to share with our board and highlight for our community is this listing of positions. All of the positions except for one are currently vacant. So they're not impacting any current employees. The one position that does have an individual in it is the part-time custodian position. And we do have other custodial positions open that can be made available to that individual. But every other position on there is currently vacant. And this action will allow us to remove those positions from the encumbered expenditure component of our budget.
Thank you for that. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion on this resolution.
I move to adopt.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Let's have a roll call vote, Ms. Gomez. Aye.
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 The motion has resolution 2307 passes unanimously. Thank you. Next one is resolution 23-08, criteria for determining order of seniority for those employees with the same date of first paid service. Dr. Fuentes.
It is recommended that the board adopt Resolution 2308, criteria for determining order of seniority for those employees with the same date of first paid service. So as we look at the seniority list that exists, with our staff, they also, each staff member has a start date upon which they were hired. And there's always that possibility that multiple staff members were hired on the same date. So if that were the case, there needs to be criterion that helps identify the order ranking of those individuals. And so what's recommended based on here is we know that our certificated employees also carry a variety of different credentials. We also have a variety of specialized needs that are hard to find type of positions. And that's what you see on this listing, bilingual certifications, special education certification, teaching experience at different grade levels, national board certification. These are all, different components that can be taken into account when having to rank individuals that were hired on the same date.
Thank you for that. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution 23-08.
Second, I also have a comment, just on the three resolutions. I want to thank Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent Franklin for all the work that you've done to, to have a minimal impact, reduction of positions and not necessarily people. And that's kind of what we're hoping, right? That impact on people, on our employees will be minimal. And thanks to your work and, finding other ways to, save some money and reduce these positions, some of which are vacant, to not impact our our teachers, our classified, and our students ultimately, right? So thank you very much for your work, and Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources as well.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, Ms. Gomez? Aye.
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 Okay, Resolution 23-08 passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Next on the list is under Education Services. I better go through this.
Thank you. It is recommended the board approve the Title I, Part A, school-wide program waiver for Brooktree, Laneview, Summerdale, Toyon, Piedmont, and Morill Middle School. So as we've mentioned in the past, in order, there's certain criterion that our schools need to meet to be able to receive Title I funds. As our demographics have changed, our schools no longer qualify outright for Title I funds. So the board has the opportunity to request a waiver so that our schools can continue to receive these funds since they're still above a 25% threshold or have significant English learner population that they're trying to support. One change in this year's waiver is we have an additional school added. And that is Brooktree Elementary. And so based on, their free and reduced lunch data this year, their percentage grew and they are now eligible also to receive that added support of funding.
It's important to turn in those free and reduced forms,
Correct.
regardless of whether you think you qualify or no. But yep, perfect. Any comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Item D under bond program for construction change order. Dr. Fuentes? I should go through this.
Thank you. For this first item, it is recommended the board approve change order number 1 for Bogle Brothers Construction, Inc. for bid B05 2022-23 interior renovation at the Ritter Park District Office. And to share with the board, this is a change order for credit back to the district for approximately $114,000.
Perfect. We will take it. Any comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is Fuse Service Inc. Change order number 1.
Thank you. It is recommended the board approve change order number 1 for Fuse Service Inc. for bid B04 2022-23 for electrical upgrades at the Ritter Park District Office. This one, this change order is also a credit back to the district for a little over $38,000.
That's great. Any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the list is Liberty Contracting and Consulting, Inc. Dr. Fuentes.
It is recommended the board approve the Liberty Contracting and Consulting, Inc. agreement for MPOE cleanup that occurred district-wide.
MPOEs for the storm thing.
That's the main point of entry for all of our internet access.
Main point of
sites. That's what MPO is.
Okay, got it. Any comments from the board on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item is the Sound and Signal Inc. Change order number 1.
It is recommended the board approve change order number 1 for bid B07 2022-23 for Sound and Signal Inc. for structured cabling at the Ritter Park District Office. This also is a credit back to the district for just under $8,000.
Perfect. Any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Sounds good. Move to approve.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Are there any requests for staff follow-ups or items for future agenda from the board? Seeing none, I'll request a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Say all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 8:57 p.m. Thank you all for being here tonight.